Oh, I'm good to go?
Yes.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys for giving me a chance to say a few words and to also let you guys know how much I appreciate that you guys have listened to the statement I made, that you've been moved by it, and that you've been able to come up with your own story and kind of telling your own journey. I think it's important that everyone feels like they have a voice in all situations. And I was sharing with Michelle last night that when I was growing up, I was doing a lot of cool things, but there's so much chaos going on around my life that nobody really noticed it. And so it always has been a mission of mine to help people like me, look like me, have the same life experiences I had, help them find their voice. And for a long time, I called myself the voice of the voiceless. But then I realized that I created my own voice so they can find their voices too. And so my mission became helping people do that. And so the other thing I share with Michelle too is like I've accomplished a lot of things in my life. All American at University of Virginia in football, had my jersey retired there, first round draft pick for the Seahawks, played 10 years in NFL. But the single greatest thing that is coming from all of that is what's happening in this moment, because all the things that I've dreamed about and all the things that I've wanted to be and how I wanted to represent myself has pretty much come full circle based on the interaction I'm having with you guys, with how you guys interacted with the words that I had to share, with the way you guys were moved and motivated by it, how you did something meaningful with it that then moved me to tears, was just incredible. And part of the tears was just like, man, like you never know when that moment is going to come, right? When it's your turn to like step up to the stage and to the plate and deliver. And this came out of nowhere, and I'm so fortunate that it did, because it really does drive home what I'm all about, what I've always been about. Like I said in the piece, I'm a lover of people. I love connecting people. I love meeting people, talking to people, sharing with people, coaching people, whatever it is. That's kind of who I am. And so this speaks to more, this accomplishment of having you guys really hear me and understand me speaks to more success than ever I had on the football field. Because this speaks to the person I am. This speaks to the man I am. This speaks to the God that's in me. This speaks to the way that I want that to manifest itself in the world. And so when Michelle sent me those, let me try not to get emotional right here, but when Michelle sent me the stuff from Madison, I was super just the clarity in her voice and the things that she had to say were just the tone, the tempo, like everything was just right on point. And then to get the music from Brooklyn and the album cover, I know I'm gonna mess up your name. Is it Ayala, or did I get that right?
It's Ayaka.
Okay, I'm sorry, I messed that up. But those things were just powerful. Like even the imagery on the album cover, just that alone, just tells such an unbelievable story, and it's so impactful that someone can look at it and not have to put a whole lot of thought into what it is you're trying to communicate. And then I'm not gonna lie, when I listened to the song, all I could think of was like old Negro spirituals, if you want to call it that. The sounds from the fields, like that's the pain and the energy that was in her voice, and like the imperfection of some of the notes and all that kind of stuff. It all made itself so real, like it painted such a real picture that you could feel it with your soul. And that's what moved me in it. Like, and I was just like, wow, like this is unbelievable. But this is what I've been fighting for my entire life, is to give someone like Brooklyn or someone like Madison or to a platform to say like, hey, this is me. Like I'm standing at the top of the mountain, I'm waving my hands, and you are going to see and you are going to hear me. And so in those two examples that she gave me, everything that I am, that I think that I am, that I think I stand for, that I think I want to be, all came full circle in those two examples. So I just want to say thank you guys a million times.
Thank you so much. And to me, as a teacher, that means a lot when I get to see the depth of thinking and things that they're working on throughout the year. There are so many times that I wish more people could see it.
Right.
And we had debates just the other day about, is social media beneficial or is it more detrimental to people? And so I've seen reports that said new generations are going to start getting irritated at social media. And I said, but this is a perfect example of a good thing about social media, because it gave me a chance to find out about you, and it gave me a chance to share with you. And there's no other way I would have gotten it to you had it not been for Twitter.
Right.
And that's a positive way of human connection that can bring things together.
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure out how to reach out to you guys from the very beginning, because I realized that it was a school, and I was interested in how you guys were engaging it. And I've heard from people all around the country and even around the world, where teachers are sharing it with their students, families are sitting around at their dinner table listening to it, and so some of that has been a little bit overwhelming. I thought that making this statement on a sports radio station, about 50% of the people would be upset because they tuned in to hear sports, and the other 50% would be like, "Oh, that was a cool story," and then just move on to the next thing. And it has blown up way beyond ever my imagination. And but I just really do appreciate that, seeing a person, like seeing them, not just like going like, "Oh, there's Michelle sitting on the other side," but like seeing the core of a person, and being able to listen to how they're expressing themselves is a skill and a talent, and we all need to be better at it, because there's so many people that have so many great things to say and share, that we don't give them the platform or the time of day based on socioeconomic status, age, where they live in a certain community, all these different things. They don't get a chance to share like that. And so I think it's just amazing. Like I said, I was moved by it. That's why I moved things around today so I could jump on this call just to show my appreciation, and just to say, just keep on speaking on, man. Like, keep on speaking on. Like, just keep like digging deep and understanding who you are, what you represent, and be unapologetic about it. Like, some people want you to apologize for being a female that has a strong opinion. Like, so what? Deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's who you are. It's how you represent yourself, and the world is gonna have to take it or leave it. Like, you don't have to be apologizing for being strong or opinionated, or making a song or creating a poem or whatever it is. However you want to express yourself, don't apologize for it.
When you were a kid and you were in school, was there something that you imagined in life that you're looking back now and saying, "Yep, that matched exactly," or "No, that's not at all how I thought things would go"?
Well, to be honest with you, like, I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, and so a lot of people think of like the Black experience being tough, like being in a big city like New York or LA or all these other kind of things. Well, I grew up in the mountains, and we had our own issues, and the only examples I saw around me of success was, and this is not a knock on anybody, was like if you got a job at like McDonald's, and then everybody else was either selling drugs or fighting or in and out of jail. And so my deal was like, okay, I'm a big dude. I was 6'5" and 240 pounds in high school. So I'm thinking, like, if I go to the military, man, I'm a big target. Like, like, how do I hide when I'm 6'6" and 250 pounds? So I don't know if I want to be the first dude they shoot at. And so I was trying to figure out, like, what do I do? And then all of a sudden the scholarship thing came about, and even that was interesting because I had no idea what recruiting was or what scholarships were. So it took my coach like months to explain to me that you wouldn't have to pay this money back. And then it took me another 2 months to explain to my dad that, hey, we don't have to pay any of this money back. And he's like, well, you don't get anything for free. That bill is going to come. And so my goal was to just graduate from college, which no one in my family had ever done. And so it's just like, can I just get to college and graduate? And then the football thing just took on a life of its own. And then as that started to grow, I started trying to realize how could I leverage the access that I get for football to do the real meaningful things that I want to do, like now. So that's why, when you hear people say athletes should stick to sports, those types of things, like it's impossible. I'm a full person. Like, I have hurts and feels and pains and successes, and my heart hurts too. And when I cut, I bleed too. And so it's like, and so the whole me, it's important for people to know the whole me. And so I started using football as a platform to then let people know who I was.
Where do you attribute the strength that you have, or where did you get that strength?
I think, to be honest with you, I don't know where the strength came from, if I got it from any particular person. I just looked around my life and realized, like, I don't want to be that. Like, so I don't want to be the person that's in and out of jail. I don't want to be the person that's maybe beating his wife and kids. I don't want to be the person that's selling drugs on the corner. So then I have to be everything that's opposite of that, you know. And so that's just kind of how I built my life. And then I had certain people in my life that would just always um, mentors that and sponsors. Like, I think it's important to have both. There's a difference that kept pushing me along and encouraging me to inform my voice and encouraging me to be out in front, and then noticing things about me that I didn't notice about myself. Like, man, you're awesome with kids. Like, you should do something working with young people. Like, they gravitate towards you, you communicate well with them, all those types of things. At first I'm just like, like I want to do something bigger than that, you know. But then the reality of it is that's where I need to be. Like, that's where that dude that was growing up saying that he wanted to be the voice of the voiceless, that's where I needed to be. I am a huge champion of our young people. I don't, and I say young people because I don't like all the labeling about the generation this and generation that, because then
Yeah.
it makes you not see the individual that's sitting right in front of you. And so I like to keep my attention on the individual in front of me, however you get to me. And so just being gaining confidence in my knowledge and awareness in and around this space is what gives me the strength to just keep pressing on, and to just every time I run into someone, like Brooklyn or Madison, and I see myself in them, and I go, like, you know what, like, I have to do what I can to help them get the opportunities that I had, whatever that is, academically, socially, financially, whatever it is. It's my commitment to young people that way.
I also love how you said when someone saw in you that you were good with kids, that it wasn't an immediate, of course I am, that there's sometimes things that you experience that you said someone else sees in you that you don't see in yourself, that is kind of like, wouldn't have thought of it that way. And
Yeah.
these 9th and 10th graders are part of mentoring younger kids at the school. We can't in the same way with remote learning, but we've seen that in groups of kids who start out as young people saying, well, I don't think I'm really good with someone else. I don't have siblings. I don't know how this works. And you can see them being amazing role models for someone younger than them. And those younger kids look up to them and ask them questions and want to be just like them.
Yeah, so I work with Special Olympics North America, and my job is I'm the director of urban development for our Unified Champion Schools model, and so I'm in and out of schools all the time. The traveler thing has, like, really hurt the way I work, because I like to be in person. But I'm in every state in the United States, and all the different urban communities, trying to get our Special Olympics programs into those communities. And so by doing that, I get all the opportunity in the world to just love on, hug on, encourage, coach, speak life into them, hear them, understand, and see, like, young people, like from kindergarten to graduating college, and so to me, it's right in my wheelhouse, and a lot of times I have to be careful, because I get a whole lot of me poured into a whole lot of people, and I enjoy doing that, and I'm never a person that sees the glass as half empty. I just see that everyone needs to be poured into, no matter if it's half full or half empty. Half of it needs to be poured into, and so I try to do a lot of pouring into people when I see it. And so, like I said, when I saw this, I was unbelievably moved. When you shared those pieces with me, it just took it to a whole nother level. And then in the middle of the night, I realized, like, dude, like, this is what you dreamed about. Like, this in the back of Little Ray's head. If you can imagine me being Little Ray, they used to call me that. They used to call me Little Ray. In the back of Little Ray's head was always this thing, like, I am going to be a pathway, a spark plug, a something for people like me. And like me meant my race, my circumstances, my issues, my problems, my socioeconomic status, all these people that were pushed to the side based on whatever, thing that people want to use to push them to the side. Like, I'm the dude that's coming after those folks, so that they can then have a chance to say who they are, and people can stand up and listen.
That sounds so much like the heart of why we even have this school in the first place, that's what we want. And that's why it got me so excited that I could see your heart coming through in your response, and really seeing them as people, and not just, oh, that's good, someone just did something and put it online or something like that. And the way that you described the core of what you want and how you want it to share out, and the love that you're showing, that's the same feeling I have as knowing and believing that Jesus loved me first, that I want that love to come out, that someone else can experience that in that same way. And so it makes me really happy to hear, regardless of where you stand or what you believe on any of those things, that that same shared core feeling is like something that can unite people in a way that various different things. I mean, we could be very different people, but having that same love for people and really wanting other people to be heard, I just really love hearing you say that.
Well, I will tell you, like I said, I didn't expect the statement to blow up like it did, but as it did, the very first thing I did was I started praying, because I didn't want this to be like a Ray moment. And then I'm just feeling good about myself and pat myself on the back and, hey, look at me, look what I did, blah, 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 blah. And I just asked God to allow me to use it however it comes.
No, I'm crying.
and the way that the message that I heard from God was just be ready. And so I just been preparing myself, really paying attention to what people are saying and how they're responding to it, so that I respond appropriately. And I'm not responding from this place of like, yeah, look at me, like, look what I did, because it's no longer about me. And when people keep asking like, hey, can I share this? Can I share it? I'm like, like at this point, it's the people's message. It's not mine. Like it belongs to the universe. And so then that keeps me from getting big headed about it, because it's not mine anymore. It's whoever wants to use it, however they want to use it. I've had people say, like, I've had 2 different people ask me if they can use it in their dissertations for their PhDs.
That's
and I'm like, do whatever you want. And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm God fed and that I'm God led, and how I'm going about the response to this statement.
It actually made me think when I first listened, that the professor of mine, education, leadership, and policy studies, said, you need to listen to this. And he said, it's for sports, and he didn't give much intro to it. And he said, as usual, I'm sure there are some people who said, where are the sports? And I didn't know where it started. And I started from like half an hour of listening to sports and baseball. And I don't have a lot of context personally in that. And I was trying to understand, and I was like, is the message somewhere in here about the sport? And then it came halfway in. My parents and I were sitting around the dinner table listening to it. And they're like, oh, you're listening to sports now? And I was like, no, I trust what this professor is saying, so I want to hear it. But when you first started talking and you asked if you could read something out, I immediately thought of the section in scripture where it says that I'm not coming to you with wise and persuasive words, but from the power of the Spirit. And that was the first thing I thought of, and I could hear that in your voice. So that's part of the reason I got all teary-eyed too when I heard that. But it's then not your message. It's the message that God spoke through you, and that you allowed yourself to be that spark plug, that vessel, that it's beyond you at that point. It's not just something that you said. It's take these words and use them in whatever way you choose, in a way that's positive and can really positively impact a lot of people at the same time as acknowledging pain and suffering and grief.
Yeah, well, they called me the night before, and I told them I wasn't sure I could do it because my emotions were just all over the place. And but then I started thinking, and this is kind of what we're dealing with now too, is like, well, how many African American men in this city get to go on the top rated sports radio show in the entire state, one of the top 10 or 15 shows in the entire country, and get to share and whatever it is I wanted to share. And so then I thought, this is important. This is like an obligation, like I have to do it. I don't have a choice to not do it. And so then it was like, okay, well then how do I deliver the something that's going to be heard? Because a lot of times I just kind of go off the top. Yeah. And sometimes I can go down a rabbit hole and you're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I thought we were talking about this. You're talking about something else. And so I was like, well, let me just put some notes down. And then as I started putting the notes down, I thought it was important to paint a picture for how this stuff has played out through the life of my grandfather, my father's life, and my life. And that, to me, that just kind of connected everything. Someone couldn't say like, well, that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Absolutely.
It's like, this same thing is happening to me, like, in this present time. And so, and this is something that all 3 of those generations have dealt with. And so that's kind of how I kind of came up with the messaging. And then, like I told you last night, like before I even started, I was already bawling like crazy. It was like,
I mean, that is
the thing to do.
So I'm really grateful that even in the I can't do it, God, that you did anyway.
It was certainly one of those moments where I just let whatever spirit was in me at the moment just kind of guide me, and then I just put it out there the only way I know how. And so I'm excited and still overwhelmed at times that some of the responses I'm getting, but I'm super excited that the young people are getting it, are motivated by it. And they're just like, oh, there's some young old dude that played football a long time ago, and what is he talking about? Get your cane and walker and go home. And but to be able to see that that it resonated with people on all age levels, and all honestly, like I've had at least 2 or 3 messages on Twitter in my inbox were self-proclaimed. Now I'm not calling them this, but these dudes are like, dude, I'm just a redneck from the woods of Virginia, and I'm listening to what you're saying, and I had to pull over. I had to, I'm crying. It's changing my perspective on a lot of things I think about. So those things are like really moving. It's really hard to receive that, you know. And so I've had lots of moments of just crying, just really feeling what other people are feeling by hearing the message, and then just being so grateful that it's been so impactful.
We've been talking about this and going through debates and how can you talk with people who have different opinions than you. My cousin just posted the other day that if someone didn't have the exact same opinion as him, he's cutting them off of all social media and be ready to say goodbye to your family. And I was listening to a webinar on anti-racism, and one of the people there said, you absolutely should not cut those people out because you may be the only voice that actually can get through to them. And if you cut them off, you may have been cutting off the chance of changing their perspective on something. And you just spoke to that about someone who listened because they're listening to sports. But at the same time, it got them to hear something in a way they may have never heard it before.
Yeah. And listening, to me, listening and hearing and communicating all are the front porch to change, because you can't get to change without hearing each other, right. because it's in those conversations, even the toughest of conversations, that if someone is willing to hear your heart and you're willing to hear their heart, you can, even with the difference of opinion, you can find a place to land where you can then make progress. And but by shutting people out, that's doing more to divide us than it is to bring us together. And so I try to keep conversations going as much as I can, and try to hear the other person in a way that I would like for them to hear me, and then hopefully in that we can move together from point A to point B.
Thank you so much for all of that, and thank you for taking the time with us too. I know you're really packed schedule.
Thank you for giving me the time. It's awesome, and hopefully when things get going again and you guys are in a physical space, I can come visit, and I would love to do that.
Do you have time for maybe one question if someone has a question?
Sure.
For you? Yeah. Okay. Do any of you have questions that you want to ask? I know it's you have tight timeline, but does anyone want to come off of mute and ask a question?
How did you keep yourself motivated when you were speaking?
On that particular call?
Yeah, or just in general as well. How do you keep yourself motivated to keep speaking?
Oh, well, I guess I'm receiving that from, if it's about this particular issue, I've always been a person that can get up in front and speak. This happens to be something that's very true and dear to my heart. So every time I get a chance to talk about it, the motivation I have is my grandfather, Juan Henry Roberts. I just think about all that he had to go through and knowing what he knew, and he still went and fought for this country. It would be a disrespectful to him for me not to use my voice and to not use the platforms that I have. And so that creates the motivation. The other motivation, just in me speaking in general, because I do this a lot, is that I'm a connector. I love connecting people. I love connecting with people. I love teaching people how to connect with other people. I love teaching people how to connect with their own goals and things that they want to get accomplished in life. And so that's just kind of how I'm built and how I'm created. And so every opportunity I get, I just get up and do it, because I feel like I think God gives us all gifts and talents, and then he expects you to tend to those gifts and talents, and he expects you to improve them and make them better, and then use them in a way that's impactful. And so I try to think that way every time I go to speak to someone, whether it's older folks or younger folks or athletic teams or businesses or corporations or what have you, that's what I try to put into it when I go into it. I want them to walk away either moved in some way or walk away with some tools that they can use to move something they're trying to do from point A to B.
Thank you. Any one other question really quickly?
I have a question about football.
Yeah, go ahead.
What pushed you? What was your motivation to push you to the next level? Like, I'm a football player. I don't know what to do next.
Yeah, so the thing that drove me in high school, my goal wasn't to get to the NFL in high school. My goal in high school was to get my college paid for once I understood what scholarships meant, and that I could use my talents to get a scholarship and have my education paid for. That was the main goal. Like I said, no one in my family. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. Have 3 older sisters, and none of them went to college. They just graduated high school, and that was it. My parents, my dad made it to 8th grade. My mom made it to, I think, 9th grade. So they didn't even graduate high school. And so it was important for me to get to college and graduate so that other kids in our neighborhood could go like, man, if Ray can do it, like I can do it. And so other kids at my school was like, man, if Ray can do it, I can do it, you know? And so that's what I carried, you know, all through high school. And then when I got to the NFL, you know, I'm just out there, I mean, in college, I'm just out there doing my thing and not thinking that anybody's taking notice. And then these scouts would come to look at other players and they would walk by me and go like, yo, man, like, you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be like one of the top football players in the country. And I'm just like, wow, like, really? like I didn't even believe that in myself, you know? And so then enough people told me that then I just owned it. I was just like, all right, well, if they think that, then I'm going to believe that. And so it just totally changed my career, like, around. And I went from being like a second or third team defensive end to being, you know, one of the top offensive tackles in the entire country for the last 2 years of my career at UVA, and then been All-American and all these other kinds of things. And so then it becomes like, I better stay good or the dude across from me really embarrassed me. You know what I'm saying? So you have to always think that the dude across town is working twice as hard. And so you have to then go put in that work because you don't want to get on the field or on the court and just get embarrassed. And so then it becomes, that part plays a role into it, you know? So like, because in the NFL, every player is good. Even the worst player on the worst team is one of the best in the world at playing football. And so they can embarrass you at any moment. And so you need to be ready for that.
Thank you. Well, just really quick, any last final questions? Brooklyn, Ayaka, or Madison, did you want to say anything? Or at least tell how excited you were to hear that someone else saw your work?
Oh, I was freaking out. I woke up my mom, called my dad, called all my siblings. I was going crazy.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you guys for sharing, man. It was pretty powerful. I sent it. I have 3 sons, a 10th grader, and then one son is graduating college, one more year in college, and the other one just graduated college. And I sent both of the things to them and said, hey, like, you guys need to listen to these. And then I asked them to share it out on their social media as well. So hopefully you guys are going to get a lot of coverage because my 2 older kids are pretty popular kids, like on the social media thing. So so they probably get a little bit more juice than I get. But no, I just think it really truly, and it may sound like I'm just like saying it to make everybody feel good, but when Michelle sent me those 2 pieces, everything that I've ever wanted to be came full circle. So you guys helped complete my circle. And I think that's awesome because you get to be part of my journey and now I get to be part of yours. And so I think that's pretty incredible. And so I just, like I said, thank you guys for accepting it the way you did, for seeing me. Like I said, I'm just this little kid that grew up in the mountains of Western North Carolina. And I just really do appreciate, you know, the thought and the effort and then what you produce that came out of it is pretty spectacular.
Again, thank you so much. It means, again, a lot to me too, and I absolutely believe you that piece because I've had that feeling before in cases where you work so hard for something, you wonder if it's going to make a difference. And it could seem small to someone else. Like, well, this is just this thing I did, but it means the world to you.
Yeah.
And I've been telling each of the kids, as we've been having one-on-one conversations, things that I'm seeing in them that they may think, well, that wasn't that big of a deal. But I said, that means more to me than any grade, any score, any content knowledge, because it's changed in the way that you're thinking about something or approaching something, and that carries with you through your life.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can go on and on. I can keep talking forever, but one of the things I always tell people, right, is that, and I'll finish with this because you guys are young people and you should know this, is that we are all leaders and we're all followers at the same time. So everyone has a circle that they influence, where it may be one or two people, it could be one person, but they're looking to you for direction. So everything you do, they're learning from it. So how you play with your friends, how you treat teachers, how you go about doing your homework, how you compete in sports, all these different things. Do you help the elderly cross the street in the neighborhood? Like, they're watching all these things. You may not even know who they are, but they're watching. So in that sense, you're the teacher and you're teaching them something. And they're looking up to you in a way that, like, okay, if I'm going to be this young dude doing whatever, I'm going to do it just like Ray did it. So now you have to be conscious of what the decisions you make. And you have to be conscious of the way you move about the world and how you do things. It's not to scare you, but it's to let you know that, like, there's someone that admires you, that's looking up to you. No matter how big or small of the action you take, they're learning from it. And then at the same time, you're a follower. So you're being influenced by somebody else. And so in that case, you have to be an active follower. You can't just like let someone lead you off a cliff and everybody dies, right? You have to participate. You have to be an active follower, ask questions, make sure that they know that where they're leading you is where you want to be led, like those types of things. And so if it's out of alignment, then you need to be out of that circle. So if they're not headed in the same direction with the same thoughts and ideas that you're going, and they're off, doing some craziness, then you need to make a hard right and go somewhere else. And so just being conscious of being a leader and a follower and being active in both of those things all the time is an important place to be in.
That matches so well with things we've just been talking about, including knowing who you are, what's important to you, what you value, because then you can see if that aligns with. Doesn't mean that you don't stay around people who are different than the way you think,
right?
But to forward those goals, to make sure that you surround yourself with people who have those same core values and things that are important to make a positive difference.
Yep, absolutely. Well, you're doing great stuff. And like I said, I appreciate the opportunity. I need to jump on like this other work call now.
Thank you so much.
I can talk all day, but when everything gets cranked back up, you have my email. I'll send you my other contact information. Let's stay connected so we can do something.
Sounds great. I love that. Thank you.
Right. You guys have a good one and enjoy the week coming up.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Peace out.
Thank
you.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. I can, is there anything anyone wants to say on here just before we switch over to the other? We'll use a different call from this one. Is there anything else?
It looks like people are already leaving, so we might want to just start the other call.
Okay.
All right. See you guys on the other call.
Bye.